Hey everybody, welcome back. A few weeks ago I did a video talking about rocker and was talking about how my Delta 17, which is up on the roof right now, does not have a lot of rocker, and how longboats tend to want to go in a nice straight line, what we call tracking. The downside of tracking, or boats that track really well, like that boat does, is they don't turn as well. Everything in kayaks is a trade-off. So if it tracks really well, it doesn't turn really well. And so I want to talk about ways that you can make longboats turn, and all of these things that I'm going to talk about are going to work just as well, actually, if not better, in short boats. So this is how to make your boat turn. This is how to make your boat turn. Let's go. The interesting part of this is that because of a project that I'm working on that I can't talk about yet, but if you follow me on Instagram, I'll post what I've been up to for the past month, because I have not paddled in over a month because of a project that I'm working on. And so I feel like I'm going to be a little bit rusty. And I got some feedback on a stroke that I used to turn my boat all the time, which was valid feedback, and we'll talk more about that on the water. But that means that I've got to do some strokes I haven't done in a while, and I have to tweak a stroke I've been doing forever in a better way based on the feedback that I got and then some follow-up research that I did. And it's a clear indicator sort of like knowledge creep. Like I've clearly found a way that my body liked to do something, even though it wasn't as good of a way to do it. So let's grab our gear. Let's get on the water. Another reason that I have not paddled a lot is that it has just been brutally hot here. And I wither in hot weather. I'd much rather paddle in the cold and the wet. And that's one of the reasons that I haven't paddled for Knowles down in Baja. Is it's beautiful, but it's just too bloody hot for me. Seems to have abandoned a sailboat, or what was a sailboat, here on the round. Okay, after a month off the water, it feels good to be paddling. I'd like to get a feel for the boat. Got a Pelican case in here that I can feel is rattling around. Okay, so our plan was to talk about turning this here longboat. As a byproduct of having a long, deeply protruding keel, this boat tracks really well. Because it tracks really well, it doesn't turn really well. There are lots of things that we can do to help this boat turn, and the first is edging, which is what I generally go to first. So I'm lifting my right leg. Oh, and there's a video about edging. I'll put a link to it up here. Lift my right leg, add a little stroke to get it going. Right now the wind is fighting me. The wind is coming from right over here, and so the wind is fighting me. Boats generally want to go nose to the wind. And so the wind is not going to help me here, but it's going to help me in a second. I'm going to come around this little floating buoy. Lots of buoys here that I can use to practice turning, and that's exactly what we're going to do. So I'm going to switch my edge the other way. I barely have to work it, and we are turning. So edge is my first go-to for turning. It works really well. It's super easy and super effective. And So we're just going to turn through these buoys nice and easy. And we'll do one more. Super fun. Okay, the next way that I frequently turn a boat when I need a little bit more than just an edge is I integrate a sweep stroke. I did a video about this as well, integrating strokes. You can find that up here. And you can't really do a forward sweep while you're moving forward on the front half of the boat. You can do it, but it's just not that effective. It's far more effective to add it to the back half of your stroke. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the boat to the right by adding a forward sweep on the back of the boat at the end of my forward stroke. So the paddle's going to slide out and make a nice big sweep at the end, and then right back to forward stroke. And that's an integrated sweep into my forward stroke. Let's do that one more time. And it finishes right at the back of my boat. Think of your sweep stroke as being 3 pieces of pie of the 180 degrees that is your boat, and we're just going to use that third back piece of pie. Really, it's the front piece of pie and the back piece of pie that are doing it. The middle is really just moving your boat forward. So I'm also a big fan. I guess I'm doing these in the order that I use them. Yeah, I think I am. So edging into an integrated sweep, into now the crossbow rudder. Okay, so I got called out probably about a month and a half ago on my crossbow rudder, that I'm not performing it correctly. Called out is too strong of a word. He said that I should adjust my stroke for the following reasons. And I responded that I was doing the crossbow the way that I was taught to do it at Knowles, but that I would look into it. And he had some super valid points. The biggest point he had was the way that I do the crossbow rudder is up here. And the problem there is that my elbow is above my shoulder. And anytime your elbow is above your shoulder, it takes very little backward pressure to dislocate your shoulder. It would be hard for me to do it on flat water like this. It happens to whitewater paddlers, dislocated shoulders when they're doing a high brace. And it can happen in surf pretty easily with the high brace. So the high brace is up here, but a lot of people, if you're bracing on a wave, your elbow will be above your shoulder, and then it just takes a little bit of pressure that way and your shoulder pops out. So the crossbow rudder, the way I do it, well, before we get to the crossbow rudder, let's do the bow rudder, right? Which I don't like this stroke. I'm sure I am about to do this wrong. The bow rudder is like this. I don't know why I don't like that stroke. It just does not work well for me. I got a boat racing in here. Let me make sure I'm not in his way. So again, bow rudder. Oh, I find it hard to keep the blade up near the boat. That's a little bit easier. I'm not good at that stroke. I don't like it. But what I do like is the crossbow rudder. So if I'm doing it on the same side, it's called the crossbow because this paddle is going to come all the way over here across. So I do the crossbow rudder like this, and then you can control it really well. But my elbow is too high. And so I went to my 2 sources for paddling information. The first is that Knowles gives us a book with like everything we need to know for teaching a Knowles kayaking course. So if you have questions while you're on a course, you can refer to this book. It used to be called the Sea Kayak Instructor's Notebook, and now it's called the Sea Kayakers Instructor's Guide, I think. I'm not sure. So I checked there, and then I checked what I consider the end-all, be-all of paddle resources, which is Gordon Brown's Sea Kayak. a really great book, and both of them agreed with this viewer. And so I need to adjust my crossbow rudder, and it should be more like this. The problem with this compared to the way that I do it is I get more blade down into the water. The blade is closer to the water, but it is protecting my elbow. And so you can see, even just at slow speed, how much it turns the boat, which is super nice. Let's do that one more time. See, and your body is bracing the placement this way, which I really like. So that's crossbow rudder, now adjusted based on the feedback from a viewer, and it was good feedback. So that's 1, 2, 3 for me. Those are the strokes that I use to turn my boat, but I got a couple more for you. Okay, the next one, which is probably the most common way that people turn longboats, or any boat, is to use a stern rudder, or what I call drag a paddle. And so let's get some momentum going. And they want to turn to the left, so they put a blade in the water, and the boat goes left. And the problem with that, the reason I don't like it, I don't use it that much, is that it imparts a lot of drag on the boat, and you give up a lot of momentum. And it's the same thing for the low brace turn. Low brace turn is really great for a big sharp turn, but it also slows you down and stops you pretty quickly. So I use those selectively. Not a big fan, but what I am a big fan of is the stern pry, and it's a little bit more active than just dragging a paddle. So once again, let's get some momentum. Quick push gets the nose around. Quick push gets the nose around. Super nice, super easy. You could, in theory, do it the other way, but then it's a stern sweep, just like that. So stern pry works, I think, a little bit better because you don't give away quite as much energy when you're doing it. Okay, so that's edging, integrating a sweep. What else have I done? Dragged a paddle. Oh, crossbow rudder. Those are my 3 favorites in that order. Dragging a paddle or stern pry. I'm sure that there are more, but those are the ones that I use the bulk of the time. And I feel like making this stuff work for you is finding 2 or 3 options that work really well that you can then employ quickly without having to think about it. All of this should be easy to do without thinking a whole lot about it. With an asterisk, because you can use this on short boats too. You found that useful? Found that interesting? Found that fun? Hit like, hit subscribe. It would help me out a lot. You can also buy me a coffee there's a link down below in the doodly-doo. for coffee. You can buy me a cup of coffee or a whiskey if you prefer. Books available on Amazon, and at least for the next few months in Norfolk, and available for private instruction. If you're watching this in August of 2022, at least the next few months I'm in Norfolk. And then I'm not sure where I'll be. Maybe I'll be near you. Okay, that's it. I'll see you outside.